So I'm going to reset that last statement. All right, so the setting for Beethoven's Fifth, the version that we're going to play, or for those who want to play this is taking advantage of the left hand not actually having any physical sound or audible sound, excuse me. I did turn off my lower tabs. You could go into this section and just turn off the lights that are lit. All right. The other thing is, if I had the auto bass on, we would have this. Can you hear that? Nod your head if you could hear that note. Okay, good. All right. I'm surprised because I thought with that low pitch range that it would not be audible. But we didn't want that at the beginning, so I turned off my lower tabs and my auto bass. Now, the only reason auto bass is doing anything is because I'm using the easy button without the memory. If I don't have that on at all, even if I have something down here, it's going to get muddy, especially if I play full chords. All right, it's going to get all muddled. All right, so the easy button is on. I've turned off my memory. All right, no lower tabs are on, and I've turned off auto bass. And we'll talk about what I did sound-wise. So I wanted it to have that finale kind of, we've got to remember this beginning of the song is somebody knocking on his door. That's where that timing comes from. Somebody mad knocking on his door saying, "Hey, answer." All right. So that's where this comes from. It's where that lead or that melody line came from. All right. So lower tabs again controls our lower harmony. We talked about that in that other class. I've turned off my auto bass. There is no memory on. So the reason it doesn't matter what chord I'm playing is because the harmony that I'm playing up for the melody up here. So if I go to my upper harmony, I'm not using AOC, duet, country, 3-part, or open AOC, 4-part, or hymn, or any of those. I'm using a harmony called octave. Now what octave does is no matter what chord I'm playing, it doesn't matter. This is the one harmony that does not matter what chord I play here to affect the notes up here. Because it's just going without a chord. Now if I hold a C chord for an example, you'll notice it plays like I'm playing all my hands. This is not the recommended fingering for this, okay? All right, and the reason I wanted to point this out is because I think I made a comment when we were talking about harmony. Well, we never use the octave button. We use octave duet and octave AOC all the time. But I think I made the comment that it's rare. I think I said it's rare that we ever use the octave button. Here's a perfect example. This song does not start out like this with a big chord. It should be. That doesn't sound right. So it's just that open octave. Okay. So we're using a harmony called octave. Now, where it gets kind of a little crazy, and don't worry about this because I'm going to have an arrangement for those who want to learn this song. We will cover this in more detail in notes. What I have done is in my solo Genius buttons, I put in an option that's called Strings Finale. All right. In my orchestral sounds, I have Strings Ensemble 1 and Strings Octave. So I'm using an octave harmony and an octave sound in one of the voicings. Right? Because if you've never noted, if you've ever gone through your strings, there are a lot of them in there that we don't even use that much. Strings and brass, strings chamber, crescendo. I'm trying to touch the button and be out of the way of the screen. Ensemble 1. All right, and then you have finale, pizzicato. That's when the strings are being plucked. Couple sforzando. Sforzando just means suddenly loud, so it's going to give it a very bright attack. And then they have a couple other ones. I haven't ever used the string synth sound because I don't like it, and the tremolo is overly vibratoed for me. Those warm strings. I like to use those, especially in our left-hand harmony. So I put in my lower sounds button. So, all right. So anyway, so what we ended up with in there is strings octave, strings ensemble, strings finale. So those are 3 sounds I had on the upper tabs, in the orchestral and solo sections. Then in my upper sounds button, which of course some of you have a Genius button, I also had strings octave again. Now, you might think it's overkill, but they're playing in 2 different pitch ranges, because I've even spread them out further. All right. And then inside my strings button, my string sounds, I'm using 8 and 4. Okay. So all that's done. All right. And what we're ending up with is if I go into where I edit the screens, this is where I find it kind of interesting when you get into the more advanced arrangements, or utilizing more of the advanced features on the instruments. Is I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 Genius or sounds button with instruments in them. I have 4 of them. All right. And if I go, so I have upper sounds, and you'll see that the octave, I don't know if you can see that or if it's too far away, but the octave says 2. Now, if it's a positive number and it's 2, it's 2 octaves higher. So that means when I'm playing this note here, that strings octave is playing 1, 2, it's playing way up here for me. All right? All right. So it's actually getting more sound than I'm doing, which is kind of neat. The Orc 2 is at octave 1. So when I play this note, it's playing this. Orc 1 is down an octave. And Solo 1 is up 2 octaves. All right. So what's happening is even though I'm playing this note, I have this note being played, this note being played, and this note being played. But you might go, well, I'm not actually hearing the note I actually play. But we are. Because that harmony that I'm using called octave is taking this sound, filling it in here, the sound here, and going here. So what we are getting the equivalent of is this, and this all at the same time, which obviously I can't reach all those notes at once. My hands aren't that big. I can't reach 2 octaves. All right. So that's why this gets that big drama sound. Okay. All right. So again, we're harmony is set to octave. Solo Genius voicing or solo sound voicing is at is the strings finale. The Genius or Orc Sounds 2 is set to strings ensemble. Orc 1 sound is set to strings octave. Upper sounds is set to strings octave. And I have 8 and 4 foot string on. Nothing set up in this left hand at this point. All right. Now, any questions about any of that? Yeah. That was my intention, children.
Just don't ask us to do it.
Yeah. Oh, eventually. So yeah, this is, like I said, one of the nice things about doing these recordings is even though you might think we went through that pretty quick, you can go back, watch the YouTube video, and you can pause on each step and actually do each step as we go. All right. So, and again, that was all just so we could get that effect of. I turned up the volume. Sorry about that. Oh wait, I'm not on my hands anymore. The effect of me doing. All right, I don't know which one you think is easier, but that one seems a lot easier to me.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Um,
Scott,
go ahead. Say your name if you're asking the question.
Marilyn. Oh,
Go
two of us.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Carolyn.
This is Marilyn.
Okay.
I don't know whether maybe everybody else already knows this, but the buttons that say upper sounds and the tab that's upper sounds. What's the difference between the button, what happens with the buttons and what happens with the tab?
So you're asking me what the difference between upper sound or genius is and what the geniuses here are?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first of all, solo voicings can only play one sound at a time, one note at a time, because it's one.
Right.
All right.
I get that.
Here, I'm gonna unmute yourself, Marilyn. Um, so the solo voicings are solo. Orchestral can be polyphonic, which means if I'm using a right hand harmony, it will work the octave. It'll work the harmony with this section and the upper tabs. The way I tend to think of my upper tabs is as filler. I think I called it one of the terms we use in any concert hall is there's what we call garbage noise, and it's not a technical term. That it's just means that if you're playing at the Troy City Music Hall, which is one of the most revered acoustical phenomenon of a theater, they there there is not exactly a reverberation, but kind of a amplification that occurs naturally because things in that building vibrate in a certain way and hold sound in a certain way. So what happens is it creates this really rich sound. But so I use a lot of these when I go into my upper tabs. You'll notice I don't usually put a trombone Tommy in my upper sounds button. I don't go sax tenor breathy. I don't go clarinet here usually. And that's usually I'm going to have some kind of ensemble setting. It's going to be strings, it's going to be vocal, it's going to be brass ensemble, woodwind ensemble, reeds, something along those lines. So I use these more as fillers, where I use these as more defined instruments. Okay, I hope that helps.
With my limited understanding, I think you've explained it as well as I can get it.
Well,
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
That's a good way to put that. All right. And we'll keep on coming back to this, I promise.
Okay.
This is something.
Scott,
Yes, go ahead.
this is Warren. With the settings that you had with harmony, the offset octaves, and the string octave voicing, were you actually getting a larger octave spread than you would be able to play manually?
Yes, I was. And that is why when I do it this way, it sounds good, but when I use the setting that we created, it sounds deeper and richer. So it's one time where the way the organ is helping me is taking that hard version I'm playing and making it easier, but making it sound fuller and more like a full orchestra. It's one of the reasons, and I'm not going to name artists, but there have been artists that we've had in our stores and play, and they're doing everything, working their tail off. And we can take their songs that they played and arrange them for our playing style and make them sound fuller and richer, is because some of the tools that the instrument is doing for us bring up the sound and the quality. All right, it's so because if I'm doing this, well, I need to get off. I'm limited to those 4 octaves. I mean, I could technically I could play harmonies in there. All right, so I'm now playing a full chord in my. It doesn't sound right though, does it? All right, so but yes, in this case, even though I'm only playing this G note, I'm hearing this note, I'm hearing here, I'm hearing here, I'm hearing here, here, all at the same time, all with one finger instead of just the 4. Now I am using strings octave in my version, but the strings octave that's way up here is actually sounding the octave way up here. So I just realized I'm actually hearing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm actually hearing 6 octaves of sound in this setting. Whoop! Okay, really cool. Now that's just one setting. The good news is that's any time it gets to that knocking on the door, that's the setting. And again, I could play a B, and a B chord has nothing to do with it. Okay? I find that really cool. I'm sorry, but I'm easily amused. Nobody's gonna argue with me on that one. Jeez.
What is just holding down a chord, any chord doing?
Hold on one second. Vinny Kerms, right?
Yes.
Okay, Vinny, go ahead.
What is holding down a chord, any chord, doing? What happens if you don't hold a chord down?
Okay, here's what it would sound like. With a chord. Notice it just got big and full. I'm hoping you can hear that on your side of the recording or of the class. Warren, does that come through?
Yes.
You are? Okay, so the setting we have now seems to be doing a lot better. Let's hope it keeps on doing that. The only thing is, I'm sure you can hear the dog sneaking up on me when she came up behind me. You hear little claws coming up. There's a
We were hoping to get an extra octave.
Oh, well, we could. But hey, honey, come play the G pedal.
Scott?
Yeah, Dick LeBrake, right?
Yes.
I'm going by voice, so yes. Go.
Okay. Are you going to be sending out the one that's in with just one B flat, or are you going to?
Yeah.
Are we going to,
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send out a couple different versions of it. There's gonna be the one that you already received, which is in the original key. And we're gonna talk about that key thing here in a little bit because it's actually important to the class. And then the second version is gonna be in D minor, and it's gonna be the same counter melody notes that the lower notes where you're playing double melodies. Then the third version's just going to take out the extra melody part. You're just going to have the main melody. And it does sound good still, no matter which version you're playing. So let me go, let's in fact, where did it go? Are you all seeing my screen, correct? Yes, good.
got that one?
All right. So what will happen is first of all, there'll be a version. Imagine this is in D minor instead of C minor. The second version will not have these lower melody. The second version will still have the melody versions. The easier version will take out the notes I circle. Okay, so all the doubled lines will be gone. Because there is no rhythm on this. I actually think this is a perfect opportunity for people to experiment with that. And none of the arrangements that will be going on during this going without music, trying to play the easier version. I apologize. But I notice I just took out the counter melody, and it still sounds pretty spot on. All right. By the way, there's really only, at this point, because we have only the beginning excerpt of this song. The second preset, um, the second preset we use, I got you all. Don't worry. Um, the second preset is from symphonic, and it's symphonic number 4. All right. And then I made sure that I had one of the big harmonies on. This is octave AOC. By the way, octave AOC is also basically 4-part. They only separate from each other on very, very specific chords. Because 4-part, if I'm playing a C minor chord and I have 4-part on, it's going to do this: C, G, E flat, C. If I have octave AOC, it does this. In other words, they're identical. All right. The only time that changes is when you're playing some of the more advanced chords, and even then, the subtlety is just, you know, when they first talked about octave AOC, I thought they were going to do this because that's what they should have done, because we already had this. We already had that 4-part harmony. Okay, so I used symphonic category number 4 with made sure octave AOC was on. If you don't have that, you could have used lush number 4 and make sure octave AOC comes on. And another one you could use is just go to general preset number 4 or general setup number 4. That means I don't have any bank on, no style setup, no vintage, no category, just number 4. Now the only problem with this sound is it's too low. All right, so I would then turn all the voicings up 1 octave. So I'd have to go in, edit any of the sounds that come up in lower octaves from the upper tabs, and then touch my upper octave up 1 time. Then I can grab my harmony, 4-part, or octave AOC, whichever you have. If you are using category or general setup or general preset number 4, you have 4-part, but you might not have octave AOC. That's why I give both options. All right, and that'll give you. Okay, so they both work, and really, so what that ends up doing musically is, if I put this together for y'all, no, not that version. All right, where's the version I want? There we go. So y'all can still see my hands, right? I didn't take that screen away, did I?
Nope.
Yes, we can still see your hands.
Okay, good. All right. So here's what we end up with. Now again, those first chords, I'll play them the way we have it written. And that symbol that looks like a curved line with a dot in it, that's a fermata. That means to hold it. The conductor will go bum, 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 and then it'll cut them off. And there's a brief pause before you hear. Now we're back to the knock, that loud knock. harmony came off. Sorry about that. So I was like, where did my harmony go? And I need to move my page so I can see the next page. Sorry. All right. So just to kind of quick play through that. Okay. I just wanted to do kind of a quick playthrough of that just so you could hear where that will end up. And it's using just the two arrangements. I just
Oh,
hold on a second. So I'm literally just using the two arrangements. It's 1, 3, 2, and 4. So trying to keep it as simple as possible. I need this rain to go away. Ooh. Now, so that's and I want to kind of table that that song for a moment. So
are you tired? Honey?
here we go. Going back to this screen. All right, so so I know that's a lot of different elements, and we've kind of brought them at you kind of quick, but I didn't want to just cover that one song. Um, there's another song that we demonstrated, and I think in two of the classes we had time to actually do the full version of it. Um, and that was Jesu, Joy of Man's Desirings. All right. And there were some settings that were needed to play that that I think, because it's an easy one to set up, um, I think it's worth showing. Nope, that's Einoklein and Ox music. A little night music. This one. And by the way, the hard part on this one is to remember that once you start the second to last line halfway through, I have not transcribed this one yet. Once you play this chord at this point of the song, you have to jump up here. So I've got to work on rewriting this so it's easier to follow. I will get this done for everybody. But I wanted to show you the setting that I used for this, because it's actually a pretty easy setting, sort of. All right. I'm gonna. Oh no! Before I do that, before I show you that, by the way, the original key of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony is C minor, but we moved the music up to D minor, but we want it to still sound like it's in C minor. So this is one of those moments where people get very confused what key you need to put the transposer on. Okay, so we want the song to sound like it's in C minor when let's use strings. We want it to sound like C minor when we're playing D minor. Here's how you figure this out. If I'm playing D minor and I need it to be C, if I'm playing D and need it to be C, I count the number of steps from D to C, and I go the closest direction. D to C this way is too far. It's minor seventh up. By the way, a little secret, flip a minor seventh over, it's a major second. So what that translates to, you go down 1, 2. So to make this version, to make the version that we're giving you in D minor, you hear how it sounds? It sounds wrong. All right. So we transpose down 2 times to B flat to make D minor sound like C minor. All right. This is one of those weird, confusing things where the transposer has to move down a couple steps, and it does not match up in the screen with what that what the chord, what the key we want it to be in. So a lot of people think, well, it's already in C, it's already going to play C minor. No, it depends on what key or chord you're playing, and then the transposer. So now, and that sounds identical to, oh, I got to play the high octave, I forgot, but all right. So I forgot to mention that. I wanted to kind of go back there. So with Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring, yesterday, I'm one of the classes I said Jesu. That's because some of us smart Alex from during college used to call all these songs, these Latin songs, by different names. But Jesu, the way we set this one up from the factory, so we pretended we just turned on the organ. There's nothing else on. This setting is, I literally just touch number 7. I have no rhythms on. I touch number 7, the easy button. As you all know, when I'm using the easy button, I don't like it holding the chords. If you have trouble blending your chords, if you have trouble getting that smooth blend of your chords, then leave the memory on. Just be aware when you get to the end of a song. You don't want to get to the end of the song and do this. Oh. And so you've just gotten through playing all this intricate stuff. Wait, I gotta have it on. So let's say you got to the end. All right. So if you have to leave the memory on when you get to the end of the song, you hold your melody notes down and touch easy, turning it off, and it'll give you a finality. Now, if you're not using memory, I can just take my hands off the keys. That's why I opt to do it that way. All right, so again, setup number 7, nothing else on, easy button, memory off. Now the problem is, I don't want to play this up here, because that's that piccolo trumpet, that classical piccolo trumpet. And I don't want to have to, well, and I could go and, but now I have to go. That overlapping, that bridging from the lower keyboard to the upper keyboard would be super awkward. And I mentioned almost 99% of the time, we never change the split on our lower keyboard. Well, here's one of the 1%ers, okay? I happen to have programmed my custom setting number 1, which I find to be a useless button. So those of you who have the custom buttons over here on the left, that's what I'm using. I set it up to do that. You probably don't have that. So you're going to have to go into your feature button, scroll up to page 7. You'll see where it says set splits. I touch set splits. All right. Now I just decide where I want it to split. The way I play my chords in my left hand, I never go above this E. So I can touch that E to create the split right there. So, but some people who play here, you're going to have to, if you play with your pinky on C and you go up to this B, you would have to touch that B, okay? But just move the split to somewhere in between F and this, um, the F and B, so that's F2 or B2. Anywhere in this range, if I move the split, it's now set, sort of, okay? But you do need to clear out the screen because if you don't, watch what happens. You'll notice the splits going all over the place. It's going crazy. I'm playing it perfectly. All right, because the split screen was still up there, so you do have to turn off. After you touch the note you want it to split, touch your clear button. Now, oh wait, we don't want that octave. All right, so I ended up with that nice classical trumpet sound, and then we have the overlapping. So that's that bridge, and the way to bridge is just hold the thumb down and reach up. I can literally just slide my hand up so I can get there. Now I have long fingers, so I can be out here. All right. If you have long fingers, it's a blessing. If you have shorter fingers, just slide up a little bit. All right. Let me see. Where did that song go? I had it up here a second ago. I think it's this one. All right. So this looks like this. All right. So that one setting is the whole song. It's just back and forth. So when the choir came in, I just bridge up. So I try to overlap. Now, the overlapping you don't have to do. You can eliminate it, except for the last chord. You need it there. It has to be there because that way you hear the trumpet. And I just added a mezzo soprano line. All right. So, probably one of the easiest settings on the organ to get a very complex song to sound really amazing. And now, could we do some edits to this to make it even gooder? Yes, more gooder. The things like that 8-foot flute in the left hand, that whistling sound, which I hear, it's like an annoying whistle in my ear. I would have turned it off. In my lower sounds, I like the choir stage ooh is fine, but choir ah just has a much more peaceful sound to me. And there's a couple of different choirs in here. You also have prayerful. You hear how soft that one is. But choir ah is one of my favorites. Okay. Um, so that would be one option. Now, if I was really trying to pay tribute to Bach, and play this like Bach, we would have a choir. Here, somebody's got sounds going on in the background. I'm going to mute it. Um, if I wanted to, this is just the version that I used to play in church. I would play the trumpet part, and the choir would come in and sing that part. And But if you wanted to create, what I would do is this whole lower manual, I'd have organ sounds, classical organ sounds down here with the choir up top. But for me, I like this one more gooder. That's why I used it. Okay. Um, now, there was a question asked about a feature on some of the models called setup hold. Um, and not everybody has this, but it's a feature that I do find interesting. Setup hold. If you ever went to or if you were ever part of one of the buttons and tabs classes where we talked about borrowing presets, there was a class, we've done it a long, long time ago, and borrowing presets, so like, I happen to know in the Easy Waltz vintage number 7, um, they have, so there's certain sections of the organ where there's certain sound combinations that I really like that you can't find anywhere else on the instrument. So, um, so what setup hold does is, let's say I wanted to grab it. Let's say I wanted this specific string sound on. If I touch setup hold, what it's going to do is hold the settings, the sound arrangements for the melody and the harmony. Okay, and that's left hand and right hand harmony. But now when I go, so even though I was on waltz number, vintage number 4, when I touch, if I wanted to go to gospel and play with that same setting from waltz, it's going to just hold that setting. And then you can program it. I, it's an interesting feature, but for our purposes, if we're doing something like that, if I'm borrowing a preset, the way I borrow, let's say I wanted to borrow this from number 4, and I don't have the setup hold option. Well, it's as simple as, I got to go back to instrument view. So if you have setup hold, which I don't on this model, but if I had setup hold, I could take what's in vintage number 4 and move it to any other style of music. All right. And there are advantages to that, because as you play through different sound combinations, you're going to find presets that you like to use a lot. So there'd be the reason to do it. But the way we would do it, let's say I wanted to have this waltz rhythm preset number, actually, let's say I wanted that woodwind sound that comes in on waltz, rhythm preset 9. Or vintage number 9 in this case. All right, I could go set up hold, and I want to use it with soft and easy. Well, then I could go to smooth, easy 4/4, and that sound combination will still be there. Okay, but if I wanted to if I'm going to be programming it, which 90% of the time we are, the way I would do it is I just touch memorize A, the number I want it to be in, A, and I'm going to say number 1, and I'm going to memorize with just a black key. I'm not going to touch a white key here. And if you've ever watched the screen, which hopefully you do, when you touch a white key, it'll turn the light on with style, or it'll say yes, or it'll say with, underneath where it says style. We don't want that lit. Okay, so let's say I accidentally hit a white key. Just hit it again, it'll turn that light back off. Okay, when you're borrowing presets, when you're borrowing a preset, you memorize the bank, the number, black key only, and memorize. All right, so now here's the problem. If I turn off the organ and turn it back on and touched A1, there's going to be just the sounds. All right, but I want it to go in with soft and with what was it? Easy 4/4, which is soft and easy on some of the models, or the smooth button. All right, so here's how I do that. After I've memorized it, A to the number, A1 in this case, black key only, memorize. I touch A1, that sound is there. Now it happens that A0 had a rhythm in it, so it automatically turned on a rhythm. So I touch A1, and then I'm just going to reach up and grab the smooth and the easy 4/4, and now we have. So I have that combination. So I've touched A1, I choose the rhythm I want. I don't know why I played that song. It's probably because we were playing in C minor. So my brain went to a song in C minor. All right. Um, so the so I go A1, touch the correct rhythm, adjust the tempo if needed, and then I go memorize A1. So I'm hitting A1 again, white and black, and memorize. Now I've borrowed that preset and it's there. The only thing you're saving with that setup hold feature is you don't have to go memorize A1, black key, memorize, then touch A1, then touch the rhythm. You just touch setup hold, go to the rhythm, change the tempo if needed, memorize A1, white, black, memorize. Okay, I hope that helps.
That does help, Scott.
Okay, good. I had everybody muted. I had to unmute so I could hear. All right. So this borrowing of presets though is something that I'm telling you, I use it a lot. Because there are certain combinations of sounds that you can't find anywhere else in a preset. So there are settings that that I will grab from other rhythm styles, and so I'll try to work that into a class though in the near future.
Scott, where is that style hold? Or,
Setup, and it's only on the aria, I believe,
okay.
right? If hold on one second. Are you sitting at the organ, Vinny? Vinny, she's not hearing me. What happened to the sound? Can you all hear me still?
Yes. I
Okay.
can.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, her mic got muted. That's why. All right. So setup hold is, it's an option to go through that borrowing of presets. Um, you know, the way I introduced this to people a long, long time ago when we first covered this, we talked about.
All right.
Oh, I can do that from there. Nice. I had to mute because we're hearing people talk in the background. So I just muted everybody. So the reason I like borrowing presets is for every rhythm, you have at least 22 arrangements. The reason that is you have upper and third keyboard. Now, so, and I'm sitting at an Inspire, so I'll use this as a quick example. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 panel buttons. All right. All right. So we have 12 panel buttons. And we have 2 pages on 11 of those. And 4 pages on one of them. So we basically have 26 pages worth of rhythm styles. And in each page there's 2, 4, 11. So we have 11 styles. Now, a little trick to multiplying 26 times 11, you separate out the first and last number. So you take the 2 and 6 and separate it, and in between, you just add the numbers together. So if you've never seen that trick before, so if you're multiplying 26 times 11, if you do it the old way, you're going to go through and go like this, and then this, and then that, which, by the way, they don't teach that way anymore, and you end up there. All right. So the little trick is just this: you take the last number, first number, and add them together in the middle. All right. Little math tricks. This is what math geeks do when they're bored. Okay. So now if we follow that premise, we have 22 presets. I don't have a calculator on me, but 590, that's a lot. So if every rhythm has 286, if every rhythm has 286, what do you call it? There's 286 rhythms on this instrument, and there are 22 presets. That's 6,292 preset combinations of instrument voicings. But the thing is, some of you don't have just rhythm preset. Some of you have rhythm preset and organ preset. Some of you have rhythm, vintage and style setup. So technically, that number is times 2. So you have 12,584. All right. I double checked the math. I grabbed my calculator out. Oh, I have it on. I just shut my phone off. Sorry about that. So what that means is there are a lot of sounds hidden on this instrument that you can use and take advantage of if you use borrowing presets. Okay. So any other questions?